Getting straight to it, so I thought I'll make a video on what actual modern gangs in America is set up like in modern day, and what gang banging really is like uh, in the modern times, and how it can be confusing to someone who's not a part of it, and even confusing to the people who aren't part of it. So how back then, right? And I'll show you how the kind of like the timelines changed, and what's it really like, and how it was back then, and how it came to be. So if you look at this picture, one, I've already broken it up for you. You'll see we're going to start with Nation, the Blue Nation, right? So how it originally started was there was this nation. It could be called anything. It could be called Crips. It could be called this this nation or this nation. For the sake of this example, we're going to call it the Blue Nation, right? So Blue Nation originally started in one neighborhood. So we're going to look at the number one. That's going to be neighborhood one. Neighborhood one could have been called anything. It could have been called that could have been Pearl Street. That could have been something something drive. That could have been 47th and hot dog drive. You know what I mean? It could have been anything. That street name could have been anything. But we're gonna say that street name was uh neighbor street, right? Neighbor street, neighborhood one street, right? So originally the nation, like I said, it could be called anything. Crips, it could be called, but we're gonna call it Blue Nation here, right? So it starts on one street. So that's one neighborhood. That's one neighborhood of guys that are all on the street, all in this community. They start this one overarching Blue Nation crew, right? That's what they did. They started this one arching Blue Nation crew. And they gave themselves a little name too, not only for their crew, but also for the neighborhood they reside on. So they're called Neighborhood One Crew. They're Blue Nation, Neighborhood One Crew. Uh, so then once they start making money, whether that be like drug dealing and just like taking over the area and territory and like branding themselves, once they wanted to make more money from like drug dealing and things like that, they wanted to expand their business. Let's like a franchise, like a fast food restaurant franchise or any type of store franchise will expand their business and open up new stores here, get all the people from that market to go to their stores in that market. You know what I mean? If let's say like in your local area, you got a Wendy's, say open up a Wendy's in one neighborhood, or like, wow, we're making a lot of money. We'll probably make even more money if we have more Wendy's so we can get to more people because not everybody is going to come all the way over here just to go to our Wendy's, right? We got to make ourselves more convenient. So let's open up another one like not too far down the street, right? So now we open up our another Wendy's not too far down the street, and we get all the people from that neighborhood. Now they want to go to the Wendy's in that neighborhood. So now we've just doubled our money just like that, just like that. So that's the same way it worked with the gangs. Like so with the drug dealing, they what they had did was they opened up another neighborhood. So they see these neighborhood of guys are like, hey, you join Blue Nation. Now you're not on neighborhood one street because y'all live over here in neighborhood two, right? Uh, in real life, they'll be called something different, obviously. But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to call this street name neighborhood two street, right? And so they're like, hey, you join Blue Nation and you can be Blue Nation on neighborhood street two, right? They're like, okay, cool. What's in it for us? They're like, look, we'll give you guns, we'll give you money, we'll show you how to make money, and you just cut off a piece of our profit, and we'll put some money in your pocket. Everybody makes money. Everybody eats, B. You make money, I make money. We need your help, and there's a lot of gain in it for you. They're like, okay, we'll open up this new business. And so then they bring their work, their supplies, some of their guys. And, now you got two streets, and these guys are all under Blue Nation, right? You got Blue Nation on Neighborhood Street 1. They call themselves the Neighborhood Street 1 Blue Nation. And then you got Blue Nation on Neighborhood Street 2, and they call themselves the Neighborhood 2 Street Blue Nation. All right. So once again, you just copy and paste the business model. We're doing really, really good here. What will we do really good on another street? So the same thing repeats. You go to another neighborhood, see all these neighborhood of guys. You say, you get me a cut of the money. We'll let y'all make some money. We'll all hang together. We'll all be cool. Let's get this money together. There's a lot of customers on your block, in your neighborhood, a lot more people. You do this for us, you let us run our enterprise through you, we'll give you a cut, you know what I mean? And so now you have this everlasting, ever growing, Blue Nation, and they're set up on this neighborhood 1 street, they're set up in the neighborhood 2 street, they're set up in neighborhood 3 street. They got all these guys in these different neighborhoods, right? They got these neighborhoods full of different guys, and they're all under Blue Nation, right? And that's how it was. They were jointed together by business, by equal hustle, and now you're getting money together, and your money together, everything's good. You hang together because sometimes when you get so much money together, you hang together. It's like your coworkers. You work with your coworkers. You have some friends once you go to the same school as some people, or you become coworkers with some people, and in most cases, right? So now let's move on to picture 2. Move on to picture 2. It shows us Red Nation setting in, right? So Red Nation, for the sake of this example, we're going to call them Red Nation. They set up on Street 1. They start their own thing. They have their own Street 1. This is Red Neighborhood Street 1. That's what we're going to call the name of that street that they're on. So they call themselves the Red Nation Neighborhood Street 1 guys, right? That's where they're set foot up. They see all this money, or for whatever reason, they started their own crew. They did their own thing. There's not just Wendy's, right? There's a Wendy's, there's a McDonald's, there's a Burger King. They all really sell the same things, just in different ways. You know what I mean? So you got these guys to set up. Now, when you have a conflict of interest, right? So you have these corporate people, they get real shady over each other, and they're just selling burgers. Imagine when you're selling drugs, right? When you're dealing with guns and gangs and egos of different individuals, right? All in a really kind of confined space. You got too many people and a general area, which is why you'll hear the term, it's a big world, but everybody know everybody. Like, it's a big and small world at the same time. You know what I mean? So these Neighborhood Street 1 guys, they do the same business model. I mean, they have so much success in this one neighborhood, they're going to go to this other street where that crew is located, and they're duplicating the same business model as well until they eventually get to 3 neighborhoods and around this center area, right? And so then next thing you know, when you guys are butting heads with money, even though you're in the same neighborhood, you guys will go to the same stores, right? You'll end up going to the same restaurants, to the same schools, to the same, events that are happening in the community, right? You guys are running to each other a lot. You know what I mean? Like, you have so many people in a condensed area, and now, there are certain flares and certain tensions. And now when you have certain hot-headed individuals, they'll lead the charge for this, right? And so now you have certain instances and situations pop off and occur, whether that be egos, whether that be women, whether that be money, whether that be whatever happened in jail, whether it be the politics of it, whether it be dispute over, well, this is my area, because even though they're selling their neighborhood, not all transactions are going to happen in these neighborhoods. Sometimes they're going to happen off the neighborhood. Sometimes these gangs, even though there's not a neighborhood of people there, they'll expand their reach. So even though they're in this neighborhood, they have this kind of much control over the area, you know what I mean? Like, and so on and so forth. So they'll collide at kind of like, what you might hear is called the gun line. Basically just the area where this neighborhood cuts off and this neighborhood cuts off, and it kind of meets in the middle. Like I said, we're going to share the same gas stations. We're going to share the same restaurants and schools and whatnot. And, we're going to end up getting to some conflict because now we're in confined areas, right? We're in confined areas, and we're both trying to get the same thing. I feel like you're taking money out of my pocket, and so now really we're now finding reasons to kind of just be mad at each other. So if any small thing happens, it's going to be has an aggravator to it, aggravator to it, because we're already at odds. You know what I mean? And now this happens. I definitely don't like you. So now you have this just this conflict that happens between these two crews, and now you get this beef, right? Got Blue Nation beefing with Red Nation. And the intermingling streets, you know, they're at conflict with each other. Well, you can't go to this area doing this, can't go to that area doing this, can't go to this area. This is where the two meets. This is where a lot of shootings happen. This area is deep with that crew, so don't worry that area is deep with that crew. And so that's how that starts. And we're going to example 3. There's a lot more nations than Blue Nations and Red Nations. So now Orange Nation gets into the fray. Once again, they follow that same business model. Orange Nation is now involved in all this in the same way. Now, you might have Orange Nation could have been like neutral to what was going on with Blue and Red Nation, and then they could have got thrown right into the mix of everything. Because once again, have a lot of people in a small area, right? It's a big area, but it's a small area. You know what I mean? Especially when you're trying to make places exclusive to the other. It just doesn't work like that, right? So this is kind of where we're at. So now you got all these different nations, all these different sub pocket hoods on different streets, and now you have this big conflict. So how is modernized gang, constructed, right? Because this is an old metric. This is old. This is not how the modern gangs are set up. And what do you mean? Well, once the police took down the leaders of these crews, or other things happen, eventually it stopped being by, oh well, we're Blue Nation, we're all under Blue Nation, and then, oh, we're all under Red Nation, okay, and we're all under Orange Nation, right? So in real life, we have cousins that live in different streets, that live on different blocks. We have family members, brothers, sisters, different streets, different blocks. My mom, I stay with my mom right here, but my brother and my dad, because they're separated, they live over here, right? So that's kind of where we're at with it, right? So even where it used to be how some of the politics unfold, where, well, that's just regardless. My street, you can't hang with those guys. But in real life, where, let's say, the steppers or the sliders of the crew, they have the most say. You know what I mean? They're the most dangerous. Everybody kind of follows suits with them, because not everybody in these crews and gangs, everybody are dangerous, right? It's usually just a certain amount of guys who are actually doing the hits for these crews, or actually, kind of with it in these crews. You might have a crew of 50 people. Only about 10 of those guys at the beginning in the crew are actually ones that are kind of like doing the sliding and drilling. The rest are kind of just like around near. Some may start, some may not. You know what I mean? But it's usually only a small number of the guys who are actually doing the stuff, at least consistently, right? So these guys are the fear. These guys are the most respected. So if they have a cousin or two that they really rock with, or a brother or sister or whatever, or a friend, best friend that they went to school with, they really rock with, that's in another area, these guys who've been standing on business, who really you can't tell nothing, with the biggest egos, biggest guns, or the most pull, they're going to do what they want. They're going to do what they want. You know what I mean? You got some guys who are going to honor the neighborhood and the nation thing. You got some guys who don't. They got the most pull. How can you tell them anything? And they have probably 3 or 4, 7 people in the crew that, they're the main faces of the crew. So they get to dictate kind of the politics on when or may not they want to apply certain street rules. So now they're hanging with guys, and now you got turmoil in the crew because, hey, I thought we were into it with these guys. If we're Blue Nation Neighborhood 1, I thought we were into it with Orange Nation 2 and Red Nation 1, 2, and 3. You know what I mean? I thought we were into it with these guys. You're hanging with so-and-so over there in that neighborhood, and you're like, hey, man, that's family, or this is my best friend, or something like that. And so, it started getting real wicked in the streets because, like I said, this is a big big collection of people in a small condensed area, right? Everybody knows everybody. Somebody has an ex, girlfriend, cousin, and I mean multiple, because in reality the streets wasn't supposed to be like this. It wasn't supposed to be gangs. It's all just supposed to be like, you know, a city and an area of people, of families, cousins, friends, neighbors. But the gangs made a divide internally with all that structuring. And so now you got a big messy pot, especially when the leadership breaks down. Now you have what's called rogue or renegades, what most, maybe about 98% of modern day gang culture is like now. So now, where I used to be into it, if I'm a Blue Nation neighborhood 3 guy, right? Neighborhood 3 guys, we've never really had problems with Orange Nation neighborhood 3 guys, right? We kind of just had default problems because of the nations we were in, but our two neighborhoods, we actually have a lot in common. A lot of our guys and friends, our family, before all this kicked off, we actually had a lot in common. We actually were really cool, before all this popped off. The politics kind of played that way to where we couldn't hang with you guys anymore, but we never took it so far as to do anything to you guys. We kind of just turned the other cheek when it came to our certain neighborhoods. We may do stuff to surrounding neighborhoods that the other is cool with. A Blue Nation neighborhood three guys might do something to Orange Nation neighborhood 2 guys, but they wouldn't necessarily do it to the Orange neighborhood 3 guys because those just two neighborhoods just had so much family and heritage before all this kind of kicked off, right? And so now that the leadership it's kind of broken down, and now like the politics has gotten kind of messy, now it's no longer even about the nation. Now, even though we still rep the nation, we still rep Blue Nation, we still rep Orange Nation, we still rep Red Nation, it's no longer about that anymore. It's kind of just a title and a name. That's just kind of what we rep. But now we're just doing what I want because all the leadership kind of broke down. Everybody's for themselves anyway. So now you just have this free for all. So now what's going on is we're going to go back to rocking with the people we really been rocking with, because nobody rocks with each other anyway. We're Blue Nation 3. Blue Nation 2 and 1 doesn't even like us. They doing their own thing. Ever since the leadership broke down, we don't even really communicate with them a lot. We were kind of just brought together by the fact that we were all Blue Nation guys. So now Blue Nation 3 is just going to go back to rocking with Orange Nation 3. Orange Nation 3 is going to go back to rocking with Blue Nation 3, right? These two neighborhoods, they go back to rocking with each other. So now, let's say another neighborhood doesn't like that, or another neighborhood just has problems with them for whatever reason. So Blue Nation 3 and Orange Nation, even though they're different nations, in different neighborhoods, they were really close to each other, right? And now they're clicked up, and they could be beefing with a Orange Nation 2 or a Blue Nation 2, right? These two sets together, the threes of the blue and the orange, even though they're different nations, and their two neighborhoods really like each other, even though they're different nations, they're the ones clicked up. They're the ones hanging with each other, barbecuing, hanging on each other's block, getting money together, and they're beefing with what's supposed to be allied colored nation set. So Blue Nation 3 and Orange Nation 3 are together. They're hanging together, these two crews and neighborhoods, and they're beefing with Blue Nation 1 and 2, right? That's their ops. Or they're beefing with Orange Nation 1, right? Neighborhood 1. And they're beefing with these guys and that guys. It was no longer about the nation anymore. Now it's just about what it kind of should have been all along, the personal relationship I have with these crews, right? The personal relationship. And so that's how it is now. You could have, in a real life world, you could have a gang of GDs who you're not supposed to be cool with BDs historically, which it means nothing now. If you listen to anybody, it means nothing now. You have a gang of GDs on 47th Street called the 47th Street whatever, or this crew, or we're called the Murder Boys or whatever, and we're cool with a gang of BDs, or you have this gang of Crips on Long Street, and we're cool with this set of Bloods on Path Street, the Path Street Blood. We're cool with those guys. You got a Crip set and a Blood set together, and we're beefing with another Blood set. You know what I mean? Because that Blood set we actually had real problems with. We actually had problems with feud. We actually don't like those guys in that neighborhood. We actually have real reason to beef. We're just not by default of how the politics of the streets played out because of we're in different nations. This is who we really have problems with, the real crew, like real street problems with. So now the nations has just become like a thing of the past. It's only just a repping title, and now it's just about, excuse me, just individual neighborhoods, right? And these neighborhoods can be made up of people in all different nations. It even gets more complex in real life because now in these neighborhoods, because you got some people that move, some people that's not originally from these neighborhoods, but now in these neighborhoods, you can have a neighborhood that's not even completely comprised of original Blue Nation members or original Red Nation members or original Orange Nation members. You can have a neighborhood where 10 of those guys were Blue Nation, 4 of these guys were Orange Nation, 7 of these guys were Red Nation, 70 of these guys were neutrals, and they just kind of just got put onto the just the wing of the neighborhood itself. They're not even under the nation itself. They just rep the neighborhood itself. And so you have this crew mixed with all these mixed guys. They got this crew, this nation, this nation, this nation, this neutron in there, but this is just one neighborhood. That's just one neighborhood, Red Nation, neighborhood 3 of the Red Nation. It's mixed with all these different guys because people have moved. This person has a family. This person was already under a nation before they moved there, but now they're in that neighborhood. So now you have this neighborhood comprised of just guys from all different nations, and they could be beefing with a neighborhood comprised of guys from all different nations as well, or all different nations with majority of one nation, or all different nations with majority of 2 nations, or you got this neighborhood of guys from all different nations, and they're beefing with a neighborhood of just strictly that nation. And that strictly that nation still doesn't mean anything because they strictly still go by just an on neighborhood basis. We're just still identifying under our roots of being Blue Nation guys, but we could care less. It's just kind of how it panned out. So that's modern gang structure. It's no longer about the overall nation itself. It's about the individual neighborhoods, and now these individual neighborhoods, they don't default now rock with each other because of it being under a certain nation. They now rock with each other on a real life basis on why or why not we shouldn't rock with each other, and we could have real problems with this crew that's in our nation on the other neighborhood. But we could be really cool with this crew that's not in our nation in another neighborhood because we actually really like these guys. Forget the politics. The overall nation doesn't matter anymore. Now it's the relations that matter between these subsets of neighborhoods. And that is how modern gang structure truly is now.